So, welcome back to Buddy Movies. I'm your host, Mark Young.
And I'm your host, Anthony Watkins.
So, there's a couple of things we need to make sure we're doing. Is that every time, because we have been forgetting, we also need to plug our Patreon.
That's right.
Patreon info.
We have a Patreon.
We have a Patreon. So if you want to support us and help us, because both of us would love to turn this whole thing into a full-time project. I know Anthony spends at least 8 hours a week lately editing our videos and stuff like that. I'm going to try and step up and do more of that stuff. Stop using my fatherhood as an excuse to not help out.
Well, I'm just double checking here. Our Patreon is patreon.com/buddymovies. So it should be pretty easy to remember.
Very easy to remember. We also have a Facebook page, which hopefully you're getting that from here. If you, of course, maybe you're not. Maybe you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So you may not know about the Facebook page for Buddy Movies. And then there's also, I think that's it actually.
Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So,
and now we have a YouTube as well.
Right. We have a YouTube channel. So check us out on YouTube. We got our first several episodes there. This is going to be our Sound of Music. It's our third?
This is our fourth.
If you don't count Jurassic Park.
Don't count Jurassic Park, then this is our fourth episode.
Fourth. Yeah.
It's my con week. And
right, it is. I hope you have some good reasons why you hate the Sound of Music.
I was like, dang it, I'm going to have to argue against Sound of Music? What did I sign up for here? And then I was watching the movie and I'm like, nah, this is easy.
No, it's easy for you? Okay. We'll see about that.
So, yeah. But yeah, we were just talking about computers because we were having a hard time getting started up here because my computer kept crashing. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's never had a problem when we're recording.
Okay.
So it's usually either when I'm using just the internet or when I'm using Microsoft Word and Excel. And the thing is, I have like a legit license for that. It's not like, I mean, it's if I had downloaded it and stole, or was using like my old school version still, then I could see why it would be giving me problems. But I have a legit license for Microsoft Office that we pay for monthly, because everything's subscription now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. So it really bugs me that it's giving me this much issues. Then we talked about how I have a friend says he's going to send me a Mac when he upgrades, and I've never had a Mac.
Got to get a Mac. I've had my Mac for almost 10 years, and let me say, I have never had any major issue with it, minus the battery, which, it's 10 years old at this point. I replaced the battery once, so battery is complete crap at this point. I get like an hour of battery life. I'm supposed to get like 8, but other than that, it's been a good machine for me.
Yeah, and I was just, the problem with Mac is this. First of all, the price point.
They are expensive.
They're expensive. To get something with the power I want, it's going to be like $3,000-$4,000. And it's not just $3,000 to $4,000. It's $3,000 to $4,000 when a PC that has like higher stats would be like $800. So that's the thing that always throws me off with the whole Mac thing is I struggle to just take that dive. Although, what was it? The last tax return that my wife and I got before we had kids, it came up because I was a student and we weren't working very much and didn't make that much money and stuff.
Yeah.
Somehow it came up really high. It was like a couple $1,000s. And my wife looks at me and goes, how much is a Mac? And I was like, I've married the right woman.
Oh.
But yeah, so that's my problem. I don't have a problem with Macs because I've used them. We had to use them at school. Like the Mac lab was where we hung out to do all of our editing things. You weren't there the last year, but
right,
because you graduated a year before me.
Correct.
But yeah, in that last year, they literally made it so that only we could get in after hours. They sectioned it off from the library so that we would come down through the back door. I don't know. Maybe that was still happening when you were there too.
I think it was. Yes, they started doing it still when I was there, like towards the end. So I do
So yeah,
remember
we
you had
would
to
be
have a
able to come
key.
down through the back entrance, and it would just be us, you know. So it was nice that it was just the film students down there
Yeah,
getting their work done.
yeah, yeah.
And
Honestly, like, yeah, I wanna get an actual desktop Mac at some point. Which again, they're even more expensive, or just as expensive as the laptops. But
yeah,
I want, because they obviously, you can get more power with those, and I'd be able to have obviously bigger screen for editing.
hmm
And yeah, the only negative also, of course, is that they're not portable. But I mean, yeah,
I thought about buying a desktop one because they're all encompassed in just the screen.
right.
So in my view, I was like, this practically is portable. You just grab the
Just
handle in the
grab the
back
screen.
because it has a handle. My one
Yeah,
friend had one that had a handle on the back, and I'm just like, you can literally just grab that handle, grab the plug. How different is that from anything else?
that you have a
Except
valid point.
it doesn't have an attached keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that's like the key difference.
right. Yeah, it's amazing how thin computers have gotten. How yeah, there's no actual like computer base for that. It's all, the computer is the screen itself.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh my gosh, I read a story about this idiot who got rid of all these weird boxes on the desks at his place. Because they were just these boxes that were in the way, and he told the IT guys to get rid of them. And the IT guys go, "We can't. That's the computer." And he goes, "No, this is the computer." And he points at the monitor, like, "No, that box is the computer. That's just a monitor, man." He goes, "You don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here." So he kicked the IT guys out, and then he went through and had someone remove all the boxes, had a company come in and remove all those little boxes at every single desk in his department and throw them out. And then they came in the next day and nothing was working.
oh my gosh.
Guy gets in so much trouble, gets fired. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
much stupidity there. Like, I just can't believe that there's still people now who don't understand that a monitor's a monitor, a computer's a computer.
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh. Oh. Also, where is your mic? Is your mic like on the desk?
It is on the desk. Is it
Okay.
not close
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah. Maybe just move it a little closer.
All right. I'll move a little closer.
Yeah, that's good.
Is there something? There's like a crackly sound that I hear every now and then from your side.
From my side. Uh,
It
well,
sounds
I'm
like
not.
papers or something that you're messing with almost.
Oh.
No? There's
No,
nothing there? Okay.
nothing there. Yeah, let me know if you keep hearing it.
Okay.
How often does it happen?
It's like once or twice.
Okay. Oh, keep an
I
eye
didn't
on
know
it.
if you had like a candy wrapper or something.
No candy
Nope.
wrappers
Nope. No
here.
candy wrappers there. All right.
Yeah.
Well, just to edit this out.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what we do. Wow.
My son's filming videos now. On his tablet. He's like, "I'm making videos, Dad."
Oh.
And he goes, and anytime something happens that he doesn't like, he just yells, "Cut!"
That
just
fixes
like
it. Just yell cut.
I'm just like, are you editing this? Like,
What's happening here?
what's going on here? Cut! It's hilarious.
Oh my. Jeez. Wow.
Well, yeah, okay.
Today we are doing The Sound of Music. I watched this literally last night, and honestly, this is probably the first time when I rewatched it here. First time I saw it start to finish in probably 10, 15 years at least.
I had to watch it in bits and pieces, getting interrupted here and there.
It is a long movie. It's almost 3 hours. I mean, it's a
long.
musical. Almost all musicals, especially older ones, that's generally how they are. What did I want to say? Yeah, this is one I grew up watching, so that's definitely plays into part of why I like it so much, is because it's one I grew up actually watching. My family was a big Julie Andrews fan, so
Yeah, I feel like I grew up watching it too, but I really didn't remember anything past the dinner scene.
okay.
Like the song where the kids say goodbye and everything.
Yes.
I know I'd seen the stuff, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Reverend Mother, we've sinned, with the little car parts and stuff like
Right.
that. funny moment there, and so I've seen the whole thing. I've seen them climbing the mountain at the end of the movie. I've seen it all before. It's just I couldn't quite remember what had happened past the dinner scene. So everything past the dinner scene felt a little newer to me than the other stuff.
Gotcha. This was released April 1, 1965. So a while back, we're talking half a century here back.
But let's talk about that, because that's only 20 years after World War II ended.
That's true. That was something when I was looking at the trivia, something I found out was like whenever they were putting up the Nazi flags and stuff in Austria, the city that they shot in was not really comfortable with them doing that because it had like literally World War II, like you said, had ended just 2 decades basically prior to this. Yeah. So it's still very, very fresh in people's minds, and they were getting like, PTSD from this happening. Mm-hmm. Even though actually at the time, did a little more research. At the time, the city that they shot in were welcoming Nazis into their city.
Yeah, Austria. That's actually part of my complaints. We'll talk about later. Is Austria's actual role in the whole Nazi thing.
Yeah, good. I like to hear that. This was written by Ernest Lehman, directed by Robert Wise, and based on the book by Howard Lindsay and Russell Crouse. Nominated for 10 Oscars, won 5, including Best Picture and Best Director for Robert Wise. And box office wise, this thing, I knew this movie before I even looked it up, made a lot of money, but I was not really prepared for just how much money this actually made and how well it actually did in theaters at the time. It was number 1 at the box office for 41 weeks. 41 weeks. It was number 1 at the box office, which is almost an entire year. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember the box office was different back then. They didn't have
yes.
video.
This is very, very different times. Yes.
There was no video, so
it was
if you wanted to watch the stuff, you had to go to the theater.
Right. There was nowhere else. There's no digital. There's not even VHS tapes at this point.
TV has, I think, 3 channels at that point.
Yeah.
3 channels.
That's insane. That's just crazy to think about. It was in the top 10 for 100 weeks after its release, and it actually remained in theaters for 4.5 years. 4.5 years it was in theaters. Think about that for a second. Nowadays, movies are in theaters for, at best, 3 months or a couple months. You had some exceptions like Endgame, which was in there for, in 2019, it was there for several months. But for the most part, a movie's not staying in theaters for almost half a decade.
I mean, they pretty much have the DVD and digital release planned.
Right.
I mean, like the movie goes to theaters and the DVD, they already know the date it's going to come out before, when the movie releases. Whereas I remember when I was a kid that you didn't actually know when the DVD or when the VHS was going to come out because it was based on the theater run. How long did it last in the theater? And then a few months after that, you'd get it on VHS.
Right.
Unless it was a Christmas movie. Then you knew you were going to have to wait till Christmas the next year.
But yeah, this was the longest initial run of any movie up to this point. By December 1970, it earned $121.5 million worldwide, which that's not in today's dollars. That's 1965 dollars there. Yeah. And after a couple of re-releases that they did in the 80s and 90s, it ended up grossing $286.2 million worldwide, which adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
In 2014 dollars, which was the most recent I could find, $2.366 billion. Over $2 billion.
Wow.
In 2014 dollars.
That's nuts.
This was a big movie.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that's what we've got. I kind of want to mention it later, but everything about this movie is big, from the opening shot to the mansion to the sweeping aerial shots to the family that she's with, to this being on the precipice of World War II. To everything about this movie speaks that this is an epic musical, in the truest sense of the word, and to the box office, everything about this, to the number of Oscars it got nominated for, but I'll give a brief synopsis here. It's about a woman played by played by Julie Andrews, who she leaves an Austrian convent to become a governess to the children of a naval officer widower, who is played by Christopher Plummer, the one and only Christopher Plummer, who recently passed. Mm-hmm. Was that last year he passed, or is it? No, that was still this year, wasn't it?
I feel like it was last year.
Was it? Yeah, you may be right. I know it was recent. Yeah,
it was recent, but I still think it was last year. But
I was for some reason I was thinking it was this year because. Yeah.
I'll just Google it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and Google. I'm really curious.
Google.
His last movie, I believe, was Knives Out, which I also love that movie. Fantastic.
It was what out?
He was in Knives Out. That was his most recent movie that he had done.
Oh yeah, Knives Out. Yeah. Okay, you're right. It was February 5th.
Okay.
This year.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was just a couple months ago.
I was wrong. Oh, he's in Jesus of Nazareth, which is a movie I am planning to watch soon.
Oh, cool.
6.5 hour long movie.
Oh, dear. Yeah. Maybe
my father-in-law keeps raving about it, so I'm going to have to check it out. I have it for free on Prime, so I'm like, all right, let's see this movie.
Yeah.
The thing I know him most from, though, is Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, where he played the most badass Klingon of all time.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the villain in that movie, and he's got an eye patch and he's got head ridges and all that stuff. It's just kind of funny to think that he was in a Star Trek film. It just doesn't seem like
right.
The guy from Sound of Music is in this Star Trek movie, and it just seemed a little weird to me. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll get into some of my pros, and then I'll let you give all your cons. We'll battle this out to the death.
Oh yeah, because we love to kill each other.
Exactly. Yes. This could be our last episode. Who knows?
Yeah.
So honestly, this was peak Julie Andrews for me. I mean, as far as her career goes, like she had Mary Poppins and Sound of Music come out back-to-back years, 1964, 1965, and obviously she had a lot of movies after this. But
Princess Diaries, man. I mean, come on.
Princess Diaries. Yes, she was good in that too.
Anne Hathaway,
but
introduced in that movie.
Yes.
Where would we be without Julie Andrews being Anne Hathaway's grandmother?
Yeah. Right. I mean, yes, it was good too. But yes, 1964 and 1965, two great musical epics come out with her. She was 30 years old during filming this. And this is based on true story. They did take some, creative license, which
huge creative license.
A few. I didn't like, you'd be able to probably speak to some of them more than I.
Oh, yeah, look it up.
Laura was telling me some of them, but it was based on an actual Von Trapp family who lived in Austria. But in this movie, Maria is very much a free-spirited Austrian woman who's attempting to become a nun. She's kind of studying to become a nun, but she really yearns for like a life outside the abbey, and the abbey lifestyle just does not line up at all with her lifestyle. She doesn't like rules, she doesn't like regulations, she doesn't like being pinned down. She's never on time for anything. She likes just being outside, not inside.
Yeah, I did laugh at the part when they're singing How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria?
Yeah.
And at the very end, she comes running in and she washes her face real quick, and then she just looks at them and
just is like, whatever at this point.
Whatever. I thought I was sneaking in. It's not happening.
No. But yeah, she ends up being sent to Captain Von Trapp, who is, like I said, a widower, and his 7 children. And there she initially still struggles to be herself due to the captain. He has a very strict, parenting. He has very strict parenting because his wife had recently passed, and there's no semen in his house because anything joyful reminds him of his past, of his wife. And so he has this very strict parenting and very strict lifestyle for the children where, he literally uses a whistle to call them downstairs, and to do every single thing, he uses a whistle to call them, which is,
and each one has their own sound or something that he does on the whistle. It's like what?
Right. It's like,
I had
who's
the
he raising?
subtitles on, and it was funny because I can't really tell any difference between any of the whistle sounds, but it
Okay.
said like 3 blows on the whistle, 2 blows on the whistle, 6 blows on the whistle. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, the
Each
whistles are
is
different for each
distinct.
kid. Okay, didn't catch that.
Yep. So yeah, there's basically a strong lack of any fun in the house whatsoever. They just pretty much do their chores. It's very, very dry climate in the house, but she brings this sense of fun in. She really breaks the mold and introduces the captain and the children to brand new things like singing and dancing, which previously he had cut off, prohibited in the house. And basically, she's able to become herself and let herself fly free, while also the captain's able to get a sense of joyfulness that he once had with his wife, but hadn't been able to have since. He kind of, didn't want to. Basically, he didn't want to go back to that because everything kept reminding him of her, and he was just kind of trying to find meaning and purpose again, but didn't want to go out and actually fulfill that or do that. And she was able to come in and actually do that. And so they really, both characters accomplish this through themselves, and the children obviously grow with that as well. They become a closer family as a result. And it's just a really in a way, a very heartwarming movie.
Yeah.
It's a feel good movie. And in the end, obviously, they escape. They leave Austria before Hitler closes the borders. I think in a true story. Well, you can mention this too, but they don't actually leave. They don't actually walk over the mountains to Switzerland. They actually leave by train to Italy, and then they go to London. And then I think from London they went to the U.S. and they're like,
yeah. Well, they were an actual singing group. It was that was a real thing that they did. So they just went out on tour, and then booked a tour in America, and just tried not to come back.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
I mean, America didn't get involved until 41. So it's not like they would have a reason to say, oh, no, you can't go to America, because America was like, we're a little busy. We already did World War I. We don't need to get
Right.
involved in anything else here. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I had was like in Salzburg. It's only a few miles away from the Austrian-German border. And so basically when they were walking over the mountains, if they had been doing this, they actually would have walked straight into Germany. They literally would have walked right into Hitler's mountain retreat in Germany. So geographically, it does not make sense what they're doing, but it makes for a good story.
I didn't look at the geography of it.
Yeah, they would have been walking straight into Germany.
That's funny.
So,
yeah, crazy story.
But what else did I want to say? Just a few more things about the technical aspects. Like obviously, like they employ so many wide shots in this movie. Like I'm not sure if I've seen a movie recently with so many wide shots. From like I was talking about the aerial shots to just when they're singing and dancing, how many wide shots they have of the kind of bring so you can actually showcase all the dancing, all the choreography, and just the setting in general. Like the production design of this movie is fantastic. From the interior of the mansion, like all these wide shots to really showcase and show off this beautiful mansion and all the work that really went into creating that. It's fantastic. And just Austria in
I did
general.
notice the use of wide shots. The aerial shot at the beginning, I was actually getting a little pumped up there because I didn't remember it like moving through the mountains so much.
And
they're like moving through the mountains and they're coming into this hill, and I was like, oh wow, maybe this is better than I remember, and then the thing that made me go, oh, was when they cut.
Yes.
They cut right from zooming in on her to boom, the hills are alive. And I'm just like, oh, if they had like been able to not cut right there, I would have thought it was a little more epic, but it kind of like ruined that little zooming in for me. I was just like, oh, darn you. Which I know the technology wasn't the same back then. It was much more difficult to do anything like that, but come on, they did it in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. Why couldn't they do it in this?
Right. Of course. They got that shot literally from a helicopter. And I had read in the trivia that the helicopter, the downdraft from the helicopter's blades actually threw her off her feet. about 12 times.
Whoa.
They had to do over 12 takes of that because she kept the downdraft so strong that she couldn't, when she was twirling and spinning around, that she actually got blown off her feet, literally. Because the
So there's
helicopter
no
got so
way
close.
they would have been able to get her to start singing at that point.
No way.
This wasn't
No
going to
way.
happen.
It would have been cool, though, definitely, if they were able to film that whole sequence from the helicopter. They got close.
No, not like the whole sequence, but just like that opening bellowing of the hills are alive. You know what I mean? If they were able to start that, and then maybe cut when she moves like the next line,
Yeah.
But yeah, so
still a great shot.
It is. It's still a great shot.
And I want to say, like, I couldn't actually find this, but I thought I had heard at some point that this was one of the first helicopter shots ever in film history. Like,
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything to confirm that, but it had to have been at least one of the first, because, yeah, no movies at this time period were really filming, like, doing aerial shots like this before. I can't think of many movies that were doing this.
Yeah, I feel like,
especially like in the middle of nowhere, like
there's plenty of aerial shots, but a lot of them are done from planes, and they're just like very general shots, so like going over cities, because they have that in Willy Wonka. They have aerial shots on Willy Wonka going over the city, going over the factory.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't stand out like that.
Right, because obviously the helicopter, you can hover, you can stay in one spot if you want to. You have a few more liberties with a helicopter than you do a plane.
Yeah, you can literally change direction.
Right, you can go. Spin around. There's a lot you can do there. And I just feel like
you can do with. And now we just do everything in drones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, drones are a big thing now.
I'm getting more and more impressed with the drone stuff that people can do, just like cheap drones from home,
Yeah.
Forget about the fact that there's people paying tens of thousands, if not more, for really fancy ones that they attach, $100,000 cameras to. That's like even crazier.
Yeah. Aerial shots are really, they're the thing now. It's like, if you don't have an aerial shot in your film, in your short film, like, that's almost a con now. Like,
we were supposed to have one in my senior film, and I
didn't happen.
That film is
it? Did it ever actually get released?
No.
What was it called? I forget what it was called.
Restraint.
Restraint. Yes.
Restraint.
And it never actually happened.
It's never actually gotten finished, in my opinion. It got finished enough for the class.
Yeah.
When we turned stuff in, but oh my God. The fact that it never got actually finished. At this point, I'm just like, you guys all need to send me all the footage and everything so that I can just do a finished edit. Like, I want to get this thing finished. To me, it's, dude, I graduated 4 years ago. 4 years ago. So don't get me started. It's like, I remember talking to people who being like, oh yeah, it took me 5 years to finish my senior project. And I was just like, what was wrong with you? Now I know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have the footage because I was just the producer on that thing. If I was the, editor or the director, I would have the footage. So Austin and Christian, if you're listening to this, get me that footage.
Get him the dang footage.
I've messaged them and I just don't hear anything from those guys.
I haven't heard. I occasionally would snap them and I get a snap from them or two. I haven't heard anything from them in months.
See, that's the other thing is I'm old. I don't use Snapchat. I don't use Instagram. I have a Facebook. I have an Instagram. I just don't use it. I have a Twitter. Don't use it. I'm not really into the whole social media thing. Yeah. Like, I would delete my Facebook if it weren't for buddy movies. That's literally what keeps me on Facebook.
Wow.
Because I just don't care for that medium at all. I just don't find it necessary. I find it just to be a time suck for anything I'm ever trying to get done. I like YouTube. I like talking to people on there, which is probably strange to most people.
Yeah.
I just find the right communities.
Yeah. In the comment section, you talk to people, or do you actually message people?
Yeah. In the comment section, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or when they're live, I talk to someone who's streaming.
Yeah.
actually read my comment on the air on one show the other day. I was so happy.
Yeah. I did want to mention quick. I forgot to mention this during our Jurassic Park Live episode, but so Julie Palmer is a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum, right? And Case, do you remember a couple years ago? Yeah, it was Case. Case. He actually met Jeff Goldblum
Yes, he did.
in LA, and he has a picture on his Facebook with him with Jeff Goldblum around, like his arm around Jeff Goldblum.
He's a band and stuff that he
Yeah.
plays shows.
I was like, that had to be really, really cool. That'd be a good night meeting Jeff Goldblum and just hanging out with Jeff Goldblum for a little bit. Like
all the amazingness of, actually being in LA.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to text Julie that picture because even though she doesn't know Case, but still, it's pretty cool that one of my college friends, classmates, got to meet Jeff Goldblum. I think that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's also, man, I'm so bummed about that whole thing because we were doing this for Julie practically, and then she didn't get to see it live.
I know. I want to personally apologize. I've already apologized to her, but I want to apologize again here to Julie.
Granted, she won't get this for 4 weeks, but
she said she was online at 9 p.m. and waiting for us.
She said she was waiting for us, and I'm just like, oh my God. I felt so bad when I read that. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh.
Like, I just didn't look close enough whenever you said, because you actually asked me whenever we started. I remember you asked me, do you see it? And I was like, yes, I see it. But I didn't actually look closely enough. It said it was shared by you on your Facebook, not on the Buddy Movies Facebook. So all of your friends could see it.
Because I checked it and I was like, okay, so, because I was on the Buddy Movies Facebook and I could do a stream from there. But then when I wanted to do a shared stream, I was like, that was weird. It seems like something changed, because it changed like the program slightly. Yeah. A different window popped up, which is why I asked just to make sure. And I could have noticed too. I mean, it should have been a red flag when it was a lot more of my family and friends than yours.
Right. I kept waiting. I was like, where are all of my friends? I'm like, did they just ditch out on me and just not? Because I told them about it. I was like, where are they? Now it makes sense. Yeah. When we do it, we'll have to do it again. And actually, if that does happen, just immediately share to our Buddy Movies Facebook page, because as long as we share it to the page right away, then they can still watch it, even though it's not coming from the page itself.
Yeah, you can also find there's a couple different ways to do it as well, and there's ways to do backgrounds. There's a software that you can use to actually make it look a lot more fancy and stuff too. So I kind of want to experiment with that in the future.
Because, like we said, this was our first ever attempt doing a live Facebook. Like, I had never done a Facebook Live before. Yeah. And I tried to do, I did do some research beforehand, but obviously not enough.
Yeah, we're getting a lot more comfortable with the video stuff too as we go on. Yeah. So I think I'm really excited to possibly make that a regular thing,
Yeah. Well, back to Sound of Music. I mean, that's all I really had. Like, I love this. I like the story, based on a true story with some creative license taken, obviously. Like the characters, I like the technical aspects. I think it's really well directed. Production design is fantastic. Cinematography is good. Musical, the actual numbers are fantastic as well. I love the Edelweiss song as well as Do Re Mi. Those are probably my two favorites in the movie, but honestly, I think they're all good. And
Edelweiss is like the national anthem of Austria, right?
Apparently that's a common misconception. It's not actually. True, okay. It's not true. No, it's a common misconception. It's not actually a national anthem. But like the Edelweiss flower is it's a symbol in Switzerland and Austria, I believe. Like, it's a big symbol, but it's the actual song.
Because they what's that show?
Man in the High
Castle.
Yes,
they do that song at the beginning. It's so creepy.
Every time I hear Edelweiss now, I think of Man in the High Castle.
Yeah.
That's actually why I even love it even more now. Like, yes, it used to be creepy to me, but I'm like, this is, I don't know, it has like an epic nature to it to me now because of that Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. They're trying to be creepy with it.
Yes.
No, I haven't finished it yet. I haven't finished the show yet. Oh,
jeez. I finished that last year.
I got so many things that I've left partially finished. And
yeah. I'm trying to watch Fringe right now.
My brother and dad raved about that show when it first
Yeah,
came out,
I have
and I never had time to get into it.
a former coworker who absolutely loves it, and she loaned it to me. And finally, like a year later, I'm finally starting it. So we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. But I'm liking it so far. But anyway, so let's hear your side of this.
My
Sound of music.
God.
Why do you hate
So
this?
it's not a historical accuracy problem. I mean, although it is
It does have historical
wildly
inaccuracies.
historically inaccurate because they actually got married in like 26, like
Oh,
19. Yeah, they got married in
26.
like 1926. His wife had died in 1922, and after his wife died is when Maria came to be a tutor to one of the daughters.
Correct. Yes, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and of course, things happened, and um, she didn't really care for him or love him, but for the sake of the kids, she married him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she says that, their love grew and everything. But, and yeah, they were able to get out of, like we said earlier, they were able to get out fairly easily. It wasn't like this
Yeah.
having to sneak out, going over
Right.
the mountains into
Right. Although
Hitler's secret cabin.
I did find that the day after they got out is when Hitler ordered the borders to be closed. They did get out just in the nick of time, but it wasn't like they had to walk over mountains. Like they took a train and they got out. But it's more they played it out more dramatic in the movie. So.
They always do, and I mean that's fine. They're going to take these liberties with it. Obviously, they have like a love triangle thing going on in this, which is also wasn't accurate. They actually had 3 more kids together, so there ended up being 10 Von Trapp children. And of course, they changed all the kids' names. They left Maria and Gregor's names; those were their real names in real life, but they changed all the kids' names for the movie. I mean, you got to think those people were real people. Yeah, I mean, they were adults when this movie came out. I mean, some of them really didn't like the portrayal by Christopher Plummer because they're like, our father wasn't a hard man like that. He was gentle, so they didn't like that type of stuff, But it's not the historical inaccuracy. I am completely over those types of things when it comes to film because give me a break. They're trying to tell an interesting story in a couple of hours here.
Yeah.
Don't get me all
right.
riled up about historical accuracy. I mean, obviously, if you're going to try and make it actually historically inaccurate, actually misleading, you know what I mean? Like telling lies and that's a different story. Then I have a problem with it. But if it's just like, oh, we added a love story because everything in America has to have a love story in it, then fine, whatever. And it's not that I don't like musicals because I do love musicals. I grew up on musicals. Brigadoon, Phantom of the Opera. I was raving a few years ago about The Greatest Showman, and of course, there's countless Disney movies. That are all musicals. So yeah, it's not that. I actually have 3 things that I wrote down.
Okay.
Number one is too few songs.
Too few songs?
Yes.
Really?
Here's why.
Okay.
Every single song is played and sung. Not every single song, but most of the songs are done multiple times. And it's not like a reprisal. It's literally like they're just ran out of songs.
You have a point there. Okay.
They repeatedly play the same songs over. I mean, they're doing How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria as her wedding march. What? I mean, maybe it's kind of like a full circle thing of like, this is how they solved the problem. Maybe that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
But to me, it just seemed a little off. And the other thing that's kind of weird about the music in this film is everyone's aware of the singing. Everyone knows that they're singing. It's not like, there's usually in a musical, there's like this. If you showed it in a dramatic way, there wouldn't be a song there. But here, there would be. Everyone knows everyone's singing. The kids are singing. their
That
song.
is true.
And then at the
Yes.
very end, when the kids sing their song at the dinner party, I was like, you know what would make this stupid is if they actually said goodbye. Like if the people sang goodbye back to them. And then they did. And I was like, what? What just happened here? I mean, that must have been like me remembering it from when I was a kid, you know,
Yeah.
because the kids are like, goodbye. And then the whole crowd goes, goodbye. Like, why would the crowd sing it back to him? You know what I mean? Maybe the crowd would go, good night, you know, but singing it back to him, everyone's aware of the singing. She knows, oh, I was singing out in the mountains again. You know, she's
Yeah.
confessing to him.
It's self-aware.
The only song where it might not be everyone's aware that they're singing is How Do You Solve a Problem About Maria, the first time they sing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like every other song is literally her teaching them to sing.
Yeah.
And they're running around town singing this song. They're on a carriage sitting next to a guy. Doe, a deer, a female deer. It's just a little weird. Okay.
Yeah.
To me,
Okay.
so that to me is just like, okay, if it was the normal thing of like, okay, it's like a montage or people aren't aware that they're singing, you know, that type of thing. It's like I don't have a problem with musicals, but usually like the background people aren't aware that everyone's singing. In
Yeah.
this, they just make it normal for everyone to be singing everywhere, you know?
Right.
So to me, that was always a little odd.
Yeah. That's I really had not thought of that. You have a very valid point there because yeah, that moment you mentioned about them saying goodbye, the crowd singing goodbye as well. I thought that was when I rewatched this. You know, when I was younger, I didn't think anything of it,
Yeah.
but rewatching it, I was like, yeah, this is really weird. This is kind of cheesy. Even this is just very unnatural, and that's something I've always thought about musicals, and this is just how it works. Musicals are they're just not natural because no one just breaks out. No one just breaks out and starts singing out of the blue for no.
I mean, I used to do this thing where I would just break out singing randomly, but I would always be singing, "My life is a musical, always a music." You know, just trying to be goofy, you
Yeah.
know, because and people look at you like, "What the hell is going on here?"
Yeah, and I say this as someone who literally works in musical theater. I'm not
Yeah,
a big musical person. I literally have worked in musical theater for half a decade this month, and I've always found them to be very. It's just the nature of them. It's how they are. They're not natural.
yeah.
And some people don't. You know, it doesn't bother people. Some people does bother them, and yeah,
It doesn't bother me. It's just how it's executed. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
my second issue
Gotcha.
is
Okay.
moving on. Unless you want to stay
No,
on this
no,
one.
that's good.
Every conflict, with the exception of the Nazi thing at the end, every conflict, every problem is easy and solved quickly. Um,
Okay.
for example, the kids. The kids have chased away, I think they said 12 governesses.
A lot of
A
governesses,
lot of
yes.
governesses. She has them all singing by the end of the night and
That's
coming into
just
her room because of a thunderstorm. It's the nature of musicals, I
hey,
know,
that's
but there
just
are
Julie
ways,
Andrews. That's the magic
maybe,
of Julie Andrews there.
maybe, but there are ways to show a passage of time. There are ways to have it not have been necessarily the same night, you know? Um, so she ends up getting them eating out of the palm of her hand, like right away. And then, like when she comes back from the convent or the abbey, when she
Yeah.
comes back from that, and he sees her there, he breaks up with his fiance like that. It's not even a second thought.
I mean, when he does first meet her though, like he's very cold towards her and he's very reluctant to let her have her way and doesn't let her have her way for the majority even of the movie. It's Yeah, he's definitely very cold though towards her. So there is that progression. There is that she had to work to actually gain his affection, gain his trust.
Yeah.
And the kids do play pranks on her for a little bit. It doesn't last very long.
There's two pranks. They do the
first,
frog and then the pine cone.
the pine cone. And
he says he fell in love with her at the pine cone. Oh, when I saw that
that's
pine
what he
cone,
says. Yes, the end.
And she says she knew when he blew the whistle, and I'm just like, you guys are rewriting history right here.
Yeah.
Which is what couples do with their story most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't enough, like, I don't know. It just.
So you wanted a longer movie, is what you're saying? You wanted the 4 hour Snyder cut.
Oh gosh, yeah, I wanted the 4 hour Snyder cut. No, I definitely didn't want a longer movie. I just wanted it to be a little more poignant and concise, I guess would be my thing. Not have so many things going on. Because you don't, I mean, I guess the Nazi thing is done very well because it's kind of subtly in the background,
Yes.
You have one guy complaining about the flag, you're getting telegrams and stuff like that. They're aware of, hey, these guys might be crossing the border soon.
Right.
So that's there. So the build up to that was done well.
Yeah.
But coming to my third problem, I feel like the tone of the overall film, granted it is a musical is supposed to be a lighter toned film.
Right.
But I just feel like when you're dealing with this type of subject matter, maybe you shouldn't make it a musical. They're dealing with literal Nazis. We're dealing with Austria, which was a country that barely was conquered. Like, they like to talk about being conquered after the war was over. Oh, we were the first victims. But you guys, they kind of just joined up almost, It wasn't like they came in with guns a-blazing. There were years of conflict building up to it. In 1932, they had kicked all the National Socialists out. They had outlawed Nazism in Austria. But through political influence and some terrorism throughout the years, they were able to get their influence back in the country, Nazis that is. And basically when they took over, Austria joined up. Austria was the second largest amount of people fighting for the Axis powers next to Nazi Germany. So it's like these guys weren't exactly.
They didn't put up a fight against.
They didn't really put up a fight. And I mean, they do kind of show that in the film. Hey, it happened peacefully, But, and like you said, they were still hiding Nazis in 1965. The country was still hiding Nazis. It was the closest they could be to Germany and still be who they were. A lot of others ran away to Brazil and other far away countries. South America, yeah. So to me, given the gravity of what they're talking about, I feel the film almost makes too light of the subject matter of the fact that they literally set up the first concentration camps in Austria. They killed 200,000 Austrians, gypsies, and stuff like that. They, they did terrible, terrible things to do what they were doing. So to me, given the gravity of the situation, of the subject matter, I just feel like, maybe you shouldn't make a musical out of it. Just make a movie out of it. But that's just my take on why I don't think Sound of Music is really that. I don't like it as a film, as a story.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess for me, I always kind of wanted them. You mentioned how they kind of have this, not the Nazi, all this, the World War II events happening kind of in the background. I actually kind of wish they had brought, when I rewatched this, I was like, really? The actual Nazis, they don't actually technically invade until like the last 20 minutes of this 3 hour movie? Like, for some reason, when I was younger, I thought it happened like midway through the movie. and it's really pushed way in the back end of the movie. The last 20 minutes, if that, 15, 20 minutes is when they actually invade and they have this.
I mean, it's a little more
conflict.
than that.
Okay, I thought it
Because
was.
they got married.
It's right after they get married that you see the Nazis marching.
Yeah, they got married after the intermission. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess it is. It's at least in the last third of the movie.
Right.
So you figure it's like the closing act. It's like the third act when they introduce the Nazis, and it's like, as much as it's been built up to, it's also kind of out of left field. You would have thought you would have wanted to introduce that at the end of the second act at least. I don't know.
Because there's a big tonal shift also that has to happen there as well.
Yeah, which is why I'm looking at it and complaining about the tone, because I'm like, wow, this movie's been so happy-go-lucky, and then, what?
Yeah, and so much of the film happens in broad daylight, and then when the Nazis come in, you notice that there's a bunch of night scenes that happen.
Yeah, it's very cloudy. The kids are in a dark, dank building when they first show that's happened. Yeah, and then it goes straight to night from then on out, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some good arguments there.
I'm not saying I don't enjoy the movie. I mean, those nuns messing with Nazi cars. Hey, anytime you get to mess with Nazis is a good.
That's enjoyable for everybody to see.
But
and it does
yeah,
have some. Yeah. What? It does have some good humorous moments, throughout the movie, and so you don't really have. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to think here. You don't really have a problem so much with. Well, no, like you still have certain problems with the overall aesthetic of the movie. It's more of like just how they employed the lightheartedness versus the darkness, and how they didn't quite mix that as well as what they could have, basically.
Yeah, it's not really juxtaposed. It's more just like, boom, we're shifting towards being dark now. Mm-hmm. And, well, okay, there's a movie that does it, but in my opinion, they do it well. The animated Mulan does a shift in tone towards the end, because they're singing A Girl Worth Fighting For, and then at the end of that song, poof, they come to the town that's been destroyed, and the army was supposed to be there, and they're all dead. All the soldiers are dead. Tonal shift in the movie. They stop singing. There's not another single song in that movie from that point on. From that point on, it becomes a much more serious story, but they kind of were purposeful about that. Mm-hmm. So it's to me, they kind of respect it a little bit. Whereas in this, you're still singing. Granted, they're still doing the stage song and everything. It's open stage.
Yes, it's all part of the kind of motivated. Yeah, in
it's
that
kind
way.
of motivated.
It's part of the festival.
And they're like, "Oh, should we sing now?" But to me, it's still one of those things where it's like, it goes back to the first point where everyone's aware that they're singing. Like, I don't know.
Even like the closing song, "Climb Every Mountain," like they're still like, it's the same song from earlier in the movie, of course, but still there's a change in the tone of it, because it's like a more hopeful.
Because they've made it mountain now too.
Yeah. So in that way, I like it, because it's the same song, but they shifted the tone of the song itself to.
Yeah, it's meaningful, and you're like, okay, so that's why that song. That song actually the first time was kind of weird, because I don't think the nun was actually singing, because they had her in shadow the whole time.
I'm sure it was dubbed.
What?
Yeah, I'm sure it was dubbed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was dubbed. But that stood out, because everything else, every other song, the person's clearly singing it and just out in the open, lights on them and all that. But for some reason, the nun is in shadow when she's singing "Climb Every Mountain" to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that's good to hear. You made
some trivia.
You made some good points. I do have some trivia here. Some of them we already had covered from earlier, but so in the beginning of the movie, whenever Maria is running through the courthouse, so she trips in the courtyard. She trips whenever she's saying, "I have confidence." So that was accidental, not on purpose at all. And director Robert Wise liked it so much that he kept it in the movie because it kind of added to her nervousness.
Yeah, it definitely adds to
Her
the character.
Yeah, I thought it felt. Yeah, it felt right. It filled right in. Christopher Plummer apparently in this movie did not enjoy working on this movie at all. He also did not like Julie Andrews at all. He referred to her as, quote, being hit over the head with a big Valentine's Day card every day. That's what he likened working with her on this movie with.
So she actually is her characters. She
essentially,
is Mary Poppins.
When filming this, she was essentially Mary Poppins. He referred this to the movie as The Sound of Mucus, or S&M, and nonetheless, afterwards, him and Andrew still maintained, like, they still had a good relationship and everything. And honestly, Andrews later said that his cynicism towards the movie actually helped with his character, because it really fits in with his character in the movie. At the beginning of the movie, he's someone who really does not enjoy her presence or anything about the situation, and so that really fit right in for his character. We already talked about the walking over to Switzerland, that they would not have done that because they'd be walking right into Germany. So in real life, the Von Trapp house, after they left and after they fled Austria, their house was actually taken over by Heinrich Himmler. Wow. And Hitler actually was in that house. He met with Heinrich Himmler in that house several times after they had left. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of hits hard in a way.
Is that their actual house? Did they film it in their actual house?
That I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but I don't know for sure. I kind of doubt it though. We already kind of mentioned the differences between some real life things in the movie with the family. There were some things that they had to work out. This always happens when you're filming with children, because a film shoot is typically 6+ months, especially for a large scale movie like this. During filming, Heather Menzies-Urique, who played Louisa, was 3 inches taller than Nicholas Hammond, who played Friedrich. He basically had to wear heel lifts to make him look taller than her. But by the end of the shoot, Nicholas Hammond had grown 6 inches, from 5'3" to 5'9". Wow. And he often had to film with no shoes on, and Charmian Carr had to stand on a box to make herself look taller. So, and this kind of applied to several of the child actors. They grew a lot during filming. And so they had to use kind of some camera tricks and everything like this to kind of balance out how they looked from the beginning of the film shoot to the end of the film shoot.
Yeah, because they don't really give a good timeline here. You know that she's coming kind of towards the beginning of the summer. Mm-hmm. And she's supposed to stay there till September.
Right.
But it was March 12th when Austria signed off and became part of Germany, basically. So you're going from, about 7-8 months there of actual time. If the story was accurate, you know what I mean? Like historically or whatnot. I don't know if the movie actually cares about that as much, but since it did put that one date at the beginning, you kind of know that, okay, so we're talking like June, July here. By the end of the summer, he's going to be married. She can be done in September. Poof. March. So it gives you a certain amount of months there. 6 months between September and March. Yeah.
But honestly, that's all I had for trivia, because we covered a lot of what I was going to say throughout the podcast.
Yeah.
And look at that. We're pretty much right at an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
Overall, I like the movie. We discussed some possible tonal problems, that you had in the movie. I still think it works really well because of how they kind of how the songs shift tone themselves throughout the movie, towards the end. But I definitely see your points on some of those things, especially with the self-awareness of the songs themselves.
Yeah.
That was a very good thing you pointed out, because that's...
You can't remember if I said this on the actual podcast, but yeah, when I saw that I was on the negative for this movie, I got a little scared because I was like, wait, what? I'm arguing against Sound of Music? Why would I be arguing against this movie? And then I watched it and I was like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when we put the list together, my thoughts were very clear on it, but every time something comes up, I'm still like, oh,
trying to remember what it was.
Yeah.
And whenever you had mentioned there were too few songs, I was caught off guard, because when I had rewatched this last night with Laura, and she kept saying, "There's so many songs in this movie. I want to know how long this movie would be if it was just dialogue, without cutting out all the songs." But you're referring to the lack of variety of songs in the movie.
Yeah.
Not that there's too few songs, because there are quite a few instances of them singing. It's just the variety is not there, and that is.
I'm pretty sure the only songs that don't get repeated are... Actually, I'm pretty sure the only one that doesn't get repeated is the one that they sing together, Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews.
Okay.
After he sent the Baroness away, and he's basically saying, "Hey, will you marry me?" to her. I think that's the only song that doesn't get repeated.
What about "You're 16 going on 17"?
They repeat parts of that throughout the film.
Okay.
Yeah, because right before they decide to run from the Nazis, Maria's having a heart-to-heart with Lita or Lisa.
I honestly can't remember.
The oldest daughter. She's having like a heart-to-heart moment. They've just come back from the honeymoon, and when you're 16 going on 17, she's like, so they have it like right there again.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had that one come back. Yeah, it was that originally thing. It was that song and the one, but basically, I originally thought it was both the songs that were done in the what is that called? The outdoor building there, because that's where they Rolf and stuff sang with her. But I would have liked to see a little bit more development there too.
Yeah,
with Rolf, but it was a different time. Like they don't, relationships were different back then.
Yeah, exactly. It was a whole different time period.
It's not like you actually. It's not like you get to decide who you're marrying as easily as you do now. Now we're taking it back when there's like an arranged marriage thing going on. We're like, what? But even back then, it was still a little bit normal. Parents being involved in stuff to a very, very insanely high degree was still normal, probably up to the 60s and 70s. And in some cultures, it's still normal. But
yeah.
So that is The Sound of Music.
And there it is. Do you have any thoughts or questions about this movie, or anything you want to
drop them in the comment section below?
Put them in the comments. We'll check them out. And
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, definitely. Next week. Shoot, I don't have my schedule.
Treasure Planet.
What are we? It's a Treasure Planet. Okay.
Treasure Planet.
That's when you are pro and I am.
Oh yes,
I am not pro.
I've been trying to get my son to watch that movie, and he has not been willing to do it.
He doesn't want to watch it.
Oh, smack him over the head with it soon.
Oh, yeah, that's not one I grew up watching, so I am clear of any kind of nostalgia fueled energy for it. So
I didn't grow up watching it either. I think I was like 20 when this movie came out.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that is true. It was an early 2000s movie. Yeah.
So
box office bomb for Disney.
What?
It's a box office bomb for Disney. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know why. I have to see why.
Why did this not connect with audiences?
My guess would be something on the marketing end of things, because stuff doesn't bomb for Disney usually unless there's something they're competing against themselves somewhere or something else.
Yeah.
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So
we're going to
tune in next week for Treasure Planet.
Yeah. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much again for listening to us. Really appreciate it.
And stay cool.
Stay cool.